In the world of WWE, where every comeback is expected to be a grand moment, not everyone can write a glorious new chapter for their career. Some legends seemed destined to explode once more, only to end up as heartbreaking disappointments. Despite their fame, experience, and the love of fans, they couldn't escape the harsh truth. The glory they once had faded away. From poor booking decisions and character missteps to the decline of physical ability, these are the 11 superstars whose WWE returns turned into complete disasters. Let's dive right in. Wrestling sphere, go. Kurt Angle, when the glory faded into darkness. In 2017, when WWE announced Kurt Angle's return, the wrestling world erupted in excitement. The name Olympic Hero once stood for flawless technique, unmatched intensity, and an unmistakable personality. Fans expected a legendary comeback, a moment where Angle would once again set arenas ablaze with his lightning-fast suplexes and relentless fighting spirit. At first, he returned as the general manager of Raw, a move praised for honoring his legacy without putting his health at risk. But soon, both WWE and Angle himself couldn't resist the allure of seeing him wrestle again. He put the singlet back on, ready to relive the old glory. Unfortunately, it didn't take long for fans to realize that this wasn't the Kurt Angle of 2006, the one who once left the world in awe with his technical brilliance. Years of injuries and surgeries had taken their toll. The German suplexes that once came with lightning speed were now slower, heavier. Even against top talents like AJ Styles, Samoa Joe, or Drew McIntyre, the truth was undeniable. Angle's prime was long gone. The most heartbreaking moment came at WrestleMania 35. Angle was given a farewell match, but his opponent was Baron Corbin, a controversial choice. Fans hoped for an emotional send-off, but what they got was painfully underwhelming. Gone was the sharp precision, gone was the fiery energy, only the image of a legend trying to hold on to what once was. As Angle lay on the mat, hearing the final bell ring, everyone understood. He had given everything left inside him, and his defeat wasn't to Corbin, but to time itself. A somber ending for a man once considered the very definition of perfection. Lord Tensai, when the past overshadowed the present. In 2012, WWE announced the return of a familiar face, this time under a completely new persona, Lord Tensai. Fans had known him before as Albert or A-Train, a solid mid-card talent who once held the Intercontinental and Tag Team Championships alongside Test. After leaving WWE, he found great success wrestling in Japan, reinventing himself as a disciplined, hard-hitting competitor with a dominant presence. His Japanese run impressed both fans and promoters, leading WWE to believe that, upon his return, Lord Tensai could be molded into a powerful new force, perhaps even a future WWE Championship contender. His comeback was carefully crafted, a striking new look, Japanese-inspired presentation, and the aura of a ruthless foreign warrior. He made an immediate impact, defeating John Cena in his first few weeks, a win that seemed to signal the start of a major push. But within months, everything fell apart faster than anyone expected. The problem wasn't his wrestling ability, it was his past. No matter how hard WWE tried to repackage him, fans still saw Albert. Every time he appeared, chants of "Albert! Albert!" echoed through the arenas, completely undermining the intimidating image the company had built. The once promising push faded, his matches became less significant, and eventually, Tensai was paired with Brodus Clay in a comedic tag team, a far cry from the fearsome persona he debuted with. Before long, Lord Tensai quietly disappeared from TV, ending one of the most disappointing returns in WWE history. He later transitioned into a trainer role at NXT, where he truly found his place, but no longer as an in-ring star. Alberto Del Rio, from refined aristocrat to a bitter end. When Alberto Del Rio made a shocking return at Hell in a Cell 2015, answering John Cena's open challenge for the United States Championship, the crowd erupted in disbelief. Just a year earlier, Del Rio had been fired from WWE for unprofessional conduct, tangled in controversies that completely shattered his once glamorous image. His comeback was seen as a chance at redemption, an opportunity to reclaim the status of a two-time world champion. Del Rio made an immediate impact by defeating Cena and ending his long US title reign. On paper, it was the perfect comeback moment, but reality told a different story. Instead of being rebuilt as a top-tier star, Del Rio was quickly reduced to a secondary role, used mainly to elevate younger talent. His Mexican aristocrat persona, once full of charm and confidence, now felt stale, emotionless, and directionless. Even his US title run came and went without any memorable matches or defining moments. The final nail in the coffin came when he joined the League of Nations alongside Sheamus, Rusev, and King Barrett. What should have been a dominant faction turned into a creative dead end, with Del Rio fading into the background and losing any individuality he had left. Less than 10 months after returning, he was gone again, this time due to violations of WWE's wellness policy. Del Rio claimed he left voluntarily after WWE broke promises to push him into the main event scene, but most fans saw it as an excuse for another failed run. From a proud aristocrat to a symbol of wasted potential, Alberto Del Rio's second WWE stint ended not with triumph, but with disappointment, proof that some stars can never quite reclaim their former glory. EC3. When talent was buried in WWE's machine. When EC3 first entered WWE under the name Derek Bateman, he was just another forgettable rookie lost in a sea of developing talent. But once he left the company, everything changed. Rebranding himself as Ethan Carter III in TNA, he became a star, arrogant, confident, charismatic, and magnetic. EC3 could talk, wrestle, and command attention whether fans loved or hated him. His transformation was so complete that WWE decided to bring him back, hoping to turn him into a main event-level superstar like he had proven to be elsewhere. At first, things looked promising. EC3 joined NXT, showing off his polished mic work, solid in-ring skills, and composed presentation. Fans eagerly awaited his eventual jump to Raw, expecting him to make an impact. But the moment he arrived, his momentum vanished almost instantly. During a match against Dean Ambrose, the crowd loudly cheered for Ambrose instead, and Vince McMahon reportedly saw this as a failure, deciding that EC3 couldn't connect with the WWE audience. That one reaction was enough to derail his entire push. From a rising prospect, EC3 was reduced to a ghost on TV, appearing in meaningless backstage segments, without storylines or purpose. Eventually, he was quietly released, marking one of the most squandered comebacks in WWE history. The irony was cruel. A man who had once proven himself as a main event talent elsewhere had his spark extinguished by the very company where his journey began. With fair treatment, EC3 could have been a star, but instead, he became another casualty of WWE's unforgiving system. Mickie James, a legend treated like a leftover. When Mickie James returned to WWE in 2017, fans were thrilled. They hoped to see one of the greatest women's wrestlers of her generation reclaim her rightful place among the elite. She had been a cornerstone of WWE's Golden Diva era, a skilled, charismatic, and emotionally charged performer who helped define an entire generation of women's wrestling. But instead of celebrating her legacy, WWE turned Mickie into a supporting act in her own story. Upon her return, Mickie was positioned as Alexa Bliss's ally, a secondary role meant to elevate the younger star. Rather than utilizing Mickie's experience and aura to elevate the division as a whole, WWE relegated her to background status, orbiting around Alexa's storylines. Despite still being one of the most technically sound performers in the division, Mickie was consistently overlooked. For nearly 2 years, she was stuck in repetitive matches, without meaningful storylines or opportunities to shine. Even after returning from injury, nothing changed. WWE continued to sideline her, seemingly intent on fading her out of relevance. For a 6-time women's champion, it was an insult. But the ultimate act of disrespect came in April 2021, when Mickie James was released, and WWE mailed her personal belongings in a trash bag. The move sparked outrage across the wrestling world, with fans and fellow wrestlers condemning the company's blatant lack of respect. In an attempt to save face, WWE later invited Mickie to appear in the 2022 Royal Rumble, even allowing her to carry a championship belt from another promotion. Though fans cheered her return, the gesture couldn't erase the bitterness of how she'd been treated. Mickie James deserved to be honored as a legend, but instead, her comeback became remembered as one of WWE's most disgraceful mishandlings. Rob Van Dam, the symbol of freedom trapped in bland storylines. When Rob Van Dam made his WWE return at Money in the Bank 2013, the arena erupted in thunderous cheers. With his unique blend of martial arts, parkour, and high-flying agility, RVD had always been the embodiment of creativity, a superstar unlike anyone else. After years away, Fans expected WWE to give him the spotlight he deserved, perhaps even another shot at the top title, just like the early 2000s when he lit up every ring he stepped into. But soon after his comeback, things took a disappointing turn. RVD entered a feud with Alberto Del Rio for the World Heavyweight Championship, a rivalry that seemed like the perfect setup for his grand resurgence. However, instead of focusing on the clash between two gifted athletes, WWE inexplicably centered much of the storyline around Ricardo Rodriguez, Del Rio's former manager. The narrative became disjointed and unfocused, leaving both Del Rio and RVD overshadowed in what should have been a showcase feud. From there, RVD was quietly pushed down the card, competing in short, meaningless matches with no clear direction. It felt as if WWE didn't know what to do with him, a legend still in great shape, still wildly popular, but left without purpose. Everything that made RVD special, his free-spirited energy, rebellious charisma, and unorthodox in-ring style, was suffocated by dull, formulaic booking. By the summer of 2014, Rob Van Dam quietly left WWE once again. There was no farewell moment, no grand send-off, just silence. For a performer who once revolutionized what it meant to be a WWE superstar, it was a sadly uneventful ending. What should have been a triumphant new chapter instead became one of the most forgettable and wasted comebacks in WWE history. The Ultimate Warrior, the controversial legend and his disappointing comeback. In 1996, WWE sent shockwaves through the wrestling world by announcing the return of the Ultimate Warrior, one of the most famous yet divisive figures in company history. Years earlier, Warrior had left WWE on bad terms, clashing with management over contracts, schedules, and his unpredictable personality. Despite that, WWE believed that if handled correctly, he could once again become a money-making powerhouse and the superhero figure that children adored. The company had massive plans for him, envisioning a larger-than-life attraction on the level of Andre the Giant. His comeback at WrestleMania 12 was hyped heavily, promising a triumphant new chapter. But instead of an epic showdown, fans watched Warrior squash Triple H, who would later become one of WWE's all-time greats, in just a few minutes. The match was panned across the board, not only for its absurd imbalance but also because Warrior's arrogance backstage reportedly alienated many of his peers. WWE tried to salvage his run with feuds against Goldust and Jerry, the King Lawler, but none of them connected. The once electric energy that defined the Ultimate Warrior now felt forced and outdated, clashing with WWE's evolving style and storytelling. By the summer of 1996, Warrior was gone again, this time claiming WWE had breached his contract. Vince McMahon denied the accusations, and the relationship between both sides froze for nearly 2 decades. It wasn't until 2014 that peace was finally made, allowing Warrior to return for a heartfelt Hall of Fame induction and an emotional WrestleMania appearance. Yet even with that redemption, his 1996 comeback remains one of the most disastrous returns in WWE history. Gail Kim, a nightmare return in an era that undervalued women's wrestling. When Gail Kim returned to WWE in 2009, fans hoped it would mark a glorious new chapter for one of the most respected women's wrestlers of her generation. She had become a star in TNA, celebrated as a trailblazer who helped redefine women's wrestling. But ironically, her WWE comeback turned out to be one of the worst decisions of her career, a harsh reminder of how true talent can be buried in a system not yet ready to appreciate it. From her very first weeks back, Gail realized WWE was still stuck in its old mindset. Women's matches were treated as filler rather than a legitimate showcase of skill. Though she made her re-debut on SmackDown with some fanfare, she was soon trapped in short, meaningless matches that existed only to fill airtime. The stark contrast between TNA's respect for women's wrestling and WWE's superficial approach left Gail frustrated and disillusioned. With no real storylines, no character development, and little screen time, she became an afterthought. Her breaking point came in 2011 during a battle royal. Instead of waiting to be eliminated, Gail deliberately eliminated herself, a silent but powerful protest against WWE's treatment of its women's division. Shortly afterward, she left the company once more, this time for good. Returning to TNA, Gail Kim regained her confidence, reclaimed her legacy, and went on to become a symbol of empowerment for female wrestlers worldwide. Her second WWE stint may have been a disaster, but it ultimately became a turning point, a warning to the industry that genuine talent can't be silenced forever. Eva Marie, the most pointless comeback in WWE history. When WWE announced Eva Marie's return in 2021, most fans were stunned, and not in a good way. During her first run, Eva became known for her striking looks and glamorous persona, but she was also heavily criticized for her lack of in-ring ability and inability to deliver a quality match. WWE, however, believed that her time away would help her improve and reinvent herself. Unfortunately, history repeated itself, only worse. Right from the start, Eva was reintroduced under the persona of the Evolution, a supposed inspirational figure promoted through a series of glossy vignettes. Yet, the promise ended there. Once she stepped into the ring, it was clear nothing had changed. Eva Marie was still the same, unconfident, technically limited, and completely outclassed by a new generation of women's wrestlers like Becky Lynch, Sasha Banks, and Bianca Belair, who were elevating the division to unprecedented heights. WWE tried to salvage her run by pairing her with up-and-coming talent Doudrop, but that alliance quickly fell apart. Instead of helping each other rise, the storyline felt shallow, directionless, and forgettable. As fan reactions grew colder by the week, WWE realized there was no saving this comeback. By November 2021, Eva Marie was released from her contract, ending one of the most meaningless returns in modern WWE history. No championships, no memorable moments, and no lasting impact. Her comeback served only to prove one harsh truth. In today's wrestling world, looks alone are no longer enough to mask the lack of talent. The Dudley Boyz, when the table-breaking legends returned to silence. In the summer of 2015, WWE shocked the wrestling world by announcing the return of the Dudley Boyz, the legendary tag team that once ruled both ECW and WWE with their signature, put them through a table chaos. Bubba Ray and Devon Dudley made their comeback to thunderous cheers, reuniting with the WWE Universe after more than a decade away. Everything suggested they were ready to add another glorious chapter to their tag team legacy. Their first feud was with The New Day, a young, energetic team at the peak of their popularity. On paper, it was the perfect clash of eras. But instead of a fiery rivalry that blended nostalgia and excitement, the storyline felt scattered and uninspired. Even with tables involved, the matches lacked the trademark intensity and unpredictability that once made the Dudleys legendary. WWE seemed to have no real plan for them, and the long-awaited Tag Team Championship run fans expected never came. In an attempt to shake things up, WWE turned the Dudley Boyz heel. But this decision backfired. The audience had grown too fond of their fun, table-smashing antics to boo them. Worse yet, their heel version didn't even use tables, a move that stripped away the very essence of what made them special. Soon after, they quietly faded from television, occasionally appearing to elevate younger teams before disappearing again without fanfare. By the summer of 2016, the Dudley Boyz officially left WWE once more, ending a return that promised so much but delivered so little. From once being icons of destruction to exiting without a spark, their comeback became a sobering reminder. Not every legend can relight the fire of their glory days. Bray Wyatt, a brilliant return cut tragically short. When Bray Wyatt made his shocking return to WWE at Extreme Rules 2022, the entire arena erupted. His comeback was a cinematic masterpiece, from the haunting lighting and eerie sound effects to the real-life versions of the Firefly Funhouse characters stepping out of the shadows. Every detail made fans believe this was the dawn of a new golden era for one of wrestling's most creative minds. After being released for over a year, Wyatt seemed reborn, stronger, darker, and more captivating than ever, with a mysterious Uncle Howdy persona hinting at a deep, psychological horror story yet to unfold. But the excitement soon gave way to confusion. Wyatt's segments on television became overly long, cryptic, and directionless. WWE appeared unsure how to develop his new character, and his in-ring appearances were rare and underwhelming. His feud with LA Knight, which many hoped would mark his explosive resurgence, ended with a bizarre, pitch-black match, a neon-lit spectacle that felt more like a commercial stunt than a true wrestling moment. Not long after, Bray quietly disappeared from TV without explanation. Fans waited and speculated, hoping for another return. Tragically, that moment never came. In 2023, Bray Wyatt passed away, leaving behind a legacy of unmatched creativity and haunting brilliance. What began as one of the most anticipated comebacks in WWE history ended in heartbreak, a bittersweet reminder of a visionary artist whose story, like his character, was left beautifully unfinished. And those were the 11 most forgettable returns in WWE history. Moments that proved not every legend can shine twice. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Wrestling Sphere so you won't miss any of our upcoming stories.